One of the things that really spawned the Kelley Group was my own personal development. Part of that's because where I grew up was known for really two things: the highest murder rate in the country and the home of Mike Tyson. By 16, I entered Vassar College. By age 20, I landed on Wall Street. By age 23 at Lehman Brothers, I was earning almost $500,000 a year in commissions. And then I had 4 children in my extended family who died tragically in a fire. And it was standing over their graves that I realized that there's no guarantee that you'll get a chance to express your potential.
So I was born into a family of educators. Both my parents were teachers. Education was a huge value in our home. In addition to that, so was athletics. I spent most of my formative years in the pool training. My goal was to train for the Olympics. My grandmother, who had a huge hand in raising me, got sick while I was in high school, and it made sense for my mom and I to care for her. So I made a different decision and stopped swimming entirely, and went on to graduate with honors from Pepperdine University, later pursued a graduate degree at USC in communication management. I then went into the pharmaceutical industry, and within a matter of years was in the top 10 in the world for one of the #1 pharmaceutical companies in the world.
I started doing some training, kind of like moonlighting, with a member of the CIA who was very generous. Ultimately, because of that training, by 24, 25, I was training psychiatrists, psychologists in advanced communication skills. What I had was this real passion for seeing people live better lives, be better communicators, whether they were kids on the streets or whether they were CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. One day, I'm attending this church. It's the largest spiritual gathering for celebrities in Hollywood. I'm like, okay, I'll raise money for the church. So I get up and say, I'm gonna raise money for the church, and it was an Easter, and 7,000 people are like clapping, right? One person walks through all 7,000 and says, and I'll help you do that. And that was my wife.
It was certainly the best decision that I ever made to help. And that was the true birth, if you think of the essence of a company, that was the birth of the Kelley Group, because it was the beginning of us having a very clear shared purpose to make a meaningful difference using the coaching technology known as the 90-day game.
I sometimes get asked what makes the Kelley Group different, and I have to laugh because there's nothing about us that's the same. So, in our industry, I'm the only African American who actually does what I do for all of North America, right? For the financial services industry. My wife and I are the only husband and wife couple. We're the only organization where the focus is equally balanced on a person's personal and professional life, because our model is really about how to have heightened performance, for example, at work. But the time you go to bed, the quality of the food that you eat, whether or not you have a solid home life, these things all affect your performance at work. So even though when people think of what's the difference, they think of the bottom line numbers that we produce, but what they can't necessarily appreciate is all that goes into producing that bottom line result.
The void that was really unexpected for me was, particularly in the financial service industry, there was a lack of real training. I came from a very competitive swimming background. I came from a very structured, codified pharmaceutical training background. It was very clear, you dotted I's, you crossed T's. And when I began working with the financial advisors around their selling skills, I was very surprised by the lack of real training that existed inside of the industry. And I was simultaneously inspired and encouraged because I knew that that was a gift that I could truly contribute. I think given what both Serrano and I have been through just as human beings, and the fact that we continue to go through a lot as business people, as husband and wife, when they see how we coordinated through a pandemic, or they see us co-present, or they realize that our daughter is with us and that she's saying hello and shaking their hands, they understand that we're not perfect, but that there is a level of authenticity that is not just for show. That really inspires them, because our clients tend to be incredibly family-oriented individuals, because they don't just want to have success at the office and have it be empty at home. And they sense that somehow we're figuring that out.
Primarily, as we started to expand our business, we really came to an impasse. and we really couldn't see a way to move forward. So we reached out to our professional networks and attending seminars and talking to a number of people to find that the Kelley Group's process was going to work for us, that they were well ahead of everybody else in alignment to what we were trying to get accomplished to help us move forward.
One of the most important things to understand about the 90-day game is that it's not a collection of good ideas, it's actually a system. Most people have some sort of goal or desire, but how many people have it written down? How many people have it written down, have it written as an executable game plan? How many people will turn around and give that game plan to a coach and say, I want you to hold me accountable, and the coach is someone who's already succeeded at that same plan? Oh, and by the way, we're gonna have you take that plan and send it to your friends, your family, and your staff, and we're gonna all show up on a call to hear what you're committed to doing. And the coach is gonna actually commit you to coming back at the end of 90 days to share those results in front of all those people. It's a process, it's a structure. It is predictable and it consistently works if consistently applied.
I love that we've been able to produce results for all of the major financial firms on Wall Street, but we've also structured it so that a gentleman who was fighting for his life was able to extend it by 4 years. We've also taken it into upstate New York and raised graduation rates and lowered bullying. We've had dads create healthy pregnancies for their wives that had difficulty conceiving or had difficult pregnancies, and that is what I love about the 90-day game.
Prior to this pandemic, I was literally out every single week, 2 to 3 cities a week, speaking 2, 3, 4 times a day. And then all of a sudden, in a single second, it's over. Well, you know, I don't know what most people would do, but we decided, since I can't go out and speak, let's start a television channel. Let's stop talking to thousands. Let's talk to millions. And let's build a massive collaboration and platform for other businesses affected by the pandemic. Why sit here in huddled fear, worried about our own problems when there are people who are probably worse off than we are? And so out of that, the new Kelley Group was born.
What we're really committed to is creating the greatest impact that we can on as many lives. So Serrano and I working together on a meaningful initiative using the 90-day game. To be able to be privileged enough to do that through television is something that I'm very excited by.